So the focus of the session today is basically to have a good conversation about food growing, not only in the Highlands, but also out with and globally. So I will be giving a little sort of presentation talk on the benefits of growing your own food, and also the food growing strategy that's been developed for the Highland Council, and what the next steps are, and how that includes the signing of the Glasgow Declaration by councillors. We will then be hearing from Emma. She'll have her Highland Good Food Partnership hat on today. Really looking forward to hearing from her. Then we'll be hearing from Dani from Food Tank, who will give us a bit of a global perspective on food growing and what work they're currently undertaking. And then we'll be having a Q&A and open discussion. So many of you will probably know the benefits of growing your own foods, but for people starting this conversation and joining at a later date, there's a numerous number of benefits to growing your own foods and community growing projects. So the first one is health. Growing your own provides an opportunity to eat more vegetables and engage in low impact exercise. So in a time when we're eating less veg, it's really important to reconnect with that idea of eating your own freshly grown vegetables. Also, green spaces are proven to help with your mental health and well-being, as it gives you a chance to unwind from the stresses of everyday life. And I think that's even more imperative from the situations that we've all been in over the last sort of 18 months. In terms of the environmental benefits, it really does increase biodiversity by planting native species that have been grown within Highlands for centuries. And food growing your own, it gives an organic approach which helps to reverse soil degradation and restore lost organic matter. And community growing also helps reduce our carbon footprint, as it reduces our air miles, plastic packaging, and also improves carbon sequestration in local areas. There's also economic benefits, as it can really save a lot of money, and it can take pressure off vulnerable families, where communities are coming together to grow their own local veg and fruits. Also, in terms of the social benefits, community growing projects bring people together and help enhance those social connections. By connecting with our local nature, it makes us stronger and more connected to the people around us, which is very important, especially in this day and age, and with everything we've been through. So the final benefit is the education. So community growing, or any type of growing, is really a fantastic platform for developing carbon literacy within communities, and it creates opportunities to discuss these low carbon food choices, soil management, and against carbon sequestration. And by improving carbon literacy within communities, people will have a better understanding of the environmental impacts of our activities, as we feel more connected to our place. And as what's going on in the news, the climate agenda is just moving up the news channels. So it's really important that people have a handle on what's going on in terms of this crisis. So moving on to the growing our future food strategy, food growing strategy for Highlands. This quote really summarises it, and summarises the ambition that this strategy is hoping to achieve. So by 2025, Highland communities are resilient, empowered, and supported to grow their own foods. So the aims of this strategy are to, 1, raise awareness of community growing in Highlands, 2, to inspire communities to start growing or expand their growing, 3, to signpost communities to growing information, resources, and networks, 4, to help identify potential allotments and growing spaces, and 5, to support communities to become more resilient. You'll be hearing a lot of the word resilient, and what this really means is sort of growing food together within a community. It helps build this resilience, knowledge, and confidence. And with this changing climate that's ongoing, it's going to impact communities across Highlands. So it's important that communities feel empowered and they're enabled to have the capacity to come together to tackle the different situations that may arise. If the last year's taught us anything, I would say our Highland communities are extremely resilient, and we really do come together in a crisis. So it's a really great time to be broaching this topic. And with this agenda comes the cultural change that will arise. So in order to adapt to the changing world, we as individuals and communities need to shift what is normal. A common reason people don't grow their own foods is because they don't have time, or they might not have access to land. So community growing offers that opportunity for people to work in a team, a group of people sharing the workload together, thus sort of reducing the individual commitments. And also on the latter point, sort of the Highland Council is really working hard with key partners to identify suitable lands for communities to start their own growing projects. So in terms of who was involved in pulling this strategy together, our very own Emma Whitham, who's with us today, and really having that place-based approach to it. So going out to the communities, seeing what they have to say, and building it up from there. So it was really imperative that we had communities involved from the outset to develop this strategy together. Already within Highland communities, there's amazing activity in terms of food growing. So you can see from the Highland Grow map, which basically lists out all the available allotments across Highland. We've got the great example of the community gardens. So Trish was speaking about the Rassay walled garden. So this is community-owned garden, which has been restored and now grows local produce. And I think it was Trish that was saying that twice a week they sort of have a little market, which you can attend and buy some of their local produce, which is absolutely brilliant. And as well as these gardens, we've got community orchards popping up around the place and these edible towns and villages. So there's a great deal of sort of initiatives and projects ongoing within the Highlands, and it would be great to see that expand further. This strategy really helps to list out the available support that is available within Highlands through different channels, and it really sets out this action plan for what's needed next. So as I said before, this strategy is really growing in momentum, and as we look to not only mitigate to the effects of climate change, but also adapt to climate, which will be experienced across the region. So the council's recently appointed a climate change food growing coordinator, Kirsty Ellen, who's on the call today, and we'll possibly get a wee introduction from her later on in the session. And she'll be looking to finalise this strategy and work with communities to develop resilient food systems. So the next steps, as I said in the beginning, the Highland Council has now signed the Glasgow Declaration. So the thinking behind this declaration is relatively simple. The food system is a significant contributor to carbon emissions. In Scotland alone, agriculture accounts for 26% of total greenhouse gas emissions, and emissions related to foods represent a further 5% to 10%. At a global level, food systems account for almost 21 to 37% of total greenhouse gas emissions. So it's a really important agenda to focus on, especially with climate change moving up the attention. So the Glasgow Food and Climate Declaration is a pledge and a call to action by subnational, local and international governments from all over the world to accelerate the development of the integrated food policies as a key tool in the fight against climate change, with co-benefits for biodiversity, ecosystem regeneration and the creation of resilient livelihoods for farm and food workers, along with other benefits. So as you can see on the screen, there's three main commitments that signing this pledge commits the council to, and will commit other councils and local governments to. So the first one is developing and implementing integrated food policies and strategies. Commitment 2 is reducing greenhouse gas emissions from urban and regional food systems. And 3 is calling on national governments to establish supportive and enabling policy frameworks and multi-level and multi-actor governance mechanisms. So the Highland Council, in terms of the next steps, is looking to map out and understand what the resources required to deliver against these commitments in collaboration with the Highland Good Food Partnership. So to conclude my talk, food growing is obviously importantly moving up the agenda, and with the appointment of the new food growing coordinator and the signing of the Glasgow Declaration, there is a great deal of action coming up. So that's the end of my presentation, and I will be handing over to Emma Whitham, who's going to take it away from a Highland Good Food Partnership perspective. So thank you so much, Emma, for coming along. Really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say.
Brilliant, thanks, Katie. So I'm just going to share my screen here, which I'm hoping is relatively easy. It's happening. It's happening. I'm hoping that you're getting to see this. Katie, you just want to give me the wee thumbs up that you've got this, yeah? Awesome. Right. So I'm really just going to give a wee bit of context, building on and kind of reiterating to some degree things that highlights that Katie's pulled out there, and then to tell you a little bit about how well, you'll see the context of where the Highland Good Food Partnership has come from, and why this partnership is going to have quite a significant role in driving forward this sort of transformation to a sustainable food system here in the Highlands, but also our contribution to that whole movement nationally and internationally. So I'd like to really start by saying fantastic series of events. This really does excite me to think that this type of thing is really kind of community driven, and that we're having this conversation. And as the excitement and anticipation builds in the lead up to COP in November, then obviously this conversation is exceptionally timely. So thanks to everybody who has organised this. I think we probably can all agree that in November we've got our best chance to get the world on track to tackle climate change. And during this last month, it has felt like the full fury of climate crisis has appeared almost everywhere at once. And it's been plain to see that nobody and nowhere is immune to the change in climate. So yeah, we couldn't be having this conversation at any more a pertinent, important time in history, really. This is going to be a significant year with our world leaders being faced with the monumental task of bridging that gap between countries' current climate commitments and that significant transformation that is needed to tackle the climate and nature emergencies. It's no exaggeration to say that our future is dependent on us getting this right. And this year is really, really important. We need to match our action with the reality that we face. And I think what's really one kind of note or message or kind of idea that I really want to get across with this little 5-minute presentation is that we all must play our part. This is in this massive call to action. We can all do things. And as Katie was saying, food and farming is a significant contributor to national and international greenhouse gas emissions. Let's say about 1/3. So it's really quite significant. And that means there's no way to meet the Paris targets without changing the food system. It's absolutely and utterly imperative. So the road from Paris to Glasgow definitely goes through the farm gate. And that is a massive motivation to all the work that we are doing at the Highland Good Food Partnership. And the recent IPC report obviously includes an incredible amount of alarming, interesting data there for us to think about and to use as our focus to determine our work going forward. But it also states obvious things like that climate change is already affecting food security through increasing temperatures, change in precipitation patterns, and the greater frequency of some events. So change is inevitable. The nature of the climate and environment emergency requires us to redefine the role of farmers. And the recent Farming for 1.5 degree report that was published last month states that we're no longer just asking farmers to produce food. We're asking them to deliver for nature and for climate too. Agriculture and food production must become part of the solution and not part of the problem. So we must change how we farm, what we eat, and how much we waste. And at the same time, provide good food for everyone and good jobs in the food sector. And that's what we're really driven by and passionate about at the Highland Good Food Partnership. So we need joined up action on food at every level, from local to global. And what we're trying to do is connect this all up at a local level. So I'm hoping that I can change my slide. Sorry, I was trying to do that there. Here we go. So our vision at the Highland Good Food Partnership is a Highland food system that is a resilient, regenerative and supportive network of communities, farmers, crofters, food businesses and public bodies built on diversity, interconnectedness and fairness. And this is to enable health and well-being for all of life. So there are a lot of words in there, but there's some really kind of key things that are coming through from our partners and people that are passionate about this here in the Highlands. And diversity is key. Diversity within the people involved, diversity within the food that we grow, diversity within the retail outlets, diversity even as far as the different crops that we're growing and the food that we are consuming. Diversity is healthy on all levels. And the second big word that keeps cropping up in all of our discussions is interconnectedness. This I really want to get across this message that the food system is a complex ecosystem where every single thing is connected and interdependent. And I think that is a really significant motivation behind this big drive towards integrated food policy and strategy, like what we're seeing in the commitments with the Glasgow Food and Climate Declaration. We have got narrowed it down to what we're working on to these 5 objectives. Key kind of points to take away here is that the education is a big motivation to what we're doing. So that all the way from being from toddlers and nursery and kids in school right the way through to making sure that we are supporting every single level of the food sector. Whether that be in supporting people that want to be producing cheese, right through to people that are interested in obtaining master degrees in agroecology and that type of thing. So we are working with organisations like UHI, right through to private training providers. here in the Highlands. I think I've just gone into a little bit too much detail there and stole my what I'm going to do on the next slide. So I'm going to be a bit more I'm going to be a bit more quick with going through these objectives because I've lost track there. So sorry about that. So the second objective is for the work that we are doing is to make sure that everything that we are producing is there to improve the health of the people that live here. So there's both scope there for mental health and physical health, and we're working closely there with the NHS as well as other health professionals. Third objective is to develop strong citizenship and community networks, and this sort of ties into what Katie was talking about and the work that Kirsty will be doing in terms of driving forward that community growing and community food network, and the opportunities that's got there for increasing carbon literacy and connectivity in communities. Next objective is to make sure that we increase the availability of local food that's produced. How can we get more local food on local dinner plates at an affordable price? And that becomes mainstream, that local food's not something for the privileged. That's a really big part of what we're trying to do. And objective number 5 is to establish a food system, to establish food system resilience, which is what Katie was going into a bit of detail there, so really, really important word there. Okay, our principles. Collaboration, up there at the top, that is coming through loud and clear. That's what people are needing, and that's what we're doing at the partnership, is opportunities for collaboration, bringing people together so they can work together, share ideas, share resources, and show that we're on this journey together, and that we can all, through the small changes that we make, be making a collective big impact. Resilience, ensuring food security in times of pandemics like we've just experienced, and climate instability as we go forward, absolutely key. And as I was saying back in our vision, diversity is so important to that in terms of resilience, diversity of producers and products and retail outlets. Education, that's where I was going into too much detail on that last slide, but basically we're working with all sort of tiers of the education system here in the Highlands to try and see how food education can be embedded in everything from year 3 right through to your university level, and the idea of food is seen as a life skill, an essential life skill, and also a really exciting, rewarding career for youngsters to be considering as they're approaching that stage in school. And obviously information there for adults and support there for adults as well in terms of nutrition or the environmental impact of food choices, or as Kirsty was talking about, Katie was talking about there, in terms of supporting the growing our own and the preparing and the cooking of our food. So the next principle is sustainability. So there we're thinking about better good growing practices for the support climate change mitigation and adaptation. Huge scope there. It's also addressing biodiversity crisis, and also we're thinking about, in here, really, really important to think about how the public sector can support these changes. So that's an important element there. Next principle, community, getting more people growing for the multiple health and educational benefits that we've already discussed. Showing young people that they've got a key role in shaping their future. So that's really imperative to the work that we're doing, and celebrating local food and valuing the Indigenous skills and knowledge that is out there, and really seeing this as an opportunity to think about how we can bring people together to celebrate some things that we should be really proud of our food culture, and perhaps reimagine what that actually means in the 21st century. And then our final principle, health and well-being. Basically, we want to make sure that a good diet is available to everybody, no matter where they live and no matter what their income is. So that's really, really important to us. And as I was saying earlier, we are engaging with key staff in NHS and in the Highland Council to try to embed this in our work. Yeah, so you get a bit of idea, hopefully you get a little bit of a feel of where we are coming from with all of this. really would like to encourage you. I know we're going to have a discussion, which is great, and I'm really looking forward to that. But I'd really encourage you all to connect with us, so you can sign up to join the movement at highlandgoodfood.scot, and you'll receive our monthly newsletter, keep up to date with our blog and our podcast when they're released. And also, we're quite active on three social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Pick the one that suits you best and keep in touch with us there, because we would love to hear from you. I think it's really important to remember that we can all do our bit. Okay, as we've stated, you know, it's only a food systems approach that can identify the effective interventions to accelerate climate action and delivering these many co-benefits that we've talked about. So that is the systems change. But we can be doing things as well. And I think you have to remember how you vote, where you shop, how you eat, thinking about your food waste. Really, really important things that we can all be doing as individuals. The time for incremental change has passed, and I really, really want us to believe that we need transformation now, and we can do this, but we need to do it together. Everyone and everything is connected, and that's the part and thought that I want to leave you with. I look forward to chatting about this a little bit more, and now I'll pass you back over to Katie.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Emma. That's fantastic. Isabel, who's asked that? Someone has asked whether you can put the link to the Highland Good Food Partnership into the chat function, if that's possible, Emma. That would be fab.
Yep, sure.
So yeah, thank you so much for giving us an overview of the Highland Good Food Partnership and all the amazing work that you're looking to achieve. I think it's really important to raise this agenda, and the partnership will be amazing to do that. So now we will be passing over to Dani from Food Tank. I just want to thank her so much for attending. It's a real honour, especially with all your accreditations. So thank you so much, and I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Catherine. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm having a little difficulty with my internet this morning. It's such a pleasure to see you all and be part of this conversation, and really an honor for Food Tank to learn more about what's going on very locally in Scotland. Let me just give you a brief overview of Food Tank, and then I'll explain what we're doing in Scotland this summer. So Food Tank was started in 2013. We're a research and advocacy organization, and our mission is a very simple one. We're really dedicated to highlighting stories of hope and success in food and agriculture systems, and really working to amplify the voices that aren't often heard in these conversations. We do this in a number of different ways. We have a very robust news website where we're publishing original content daily, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, with different stories from around the world, really highlighting the voices of youth, young people, women, those who are working in agroecology, the different institutions, including academic and research institutions, and really giving them a chance to voice their opinions on again, what's working to help alleviate hunger, obesity, and protect the environment. And so some of the other activities we've been really involved in are, hi, it looks like I cut out, but I'm back.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
Okay, great. Sorry. So some of the other activities that we have been involved in is we've been publishing research reports since we began on things like true cost accounting in the food system, the role of family farmers around the globe. A few years ago, we published our first book called Nourished Planet, really highlighting how our food and health systems are very interconnected. We're working on another book, which I'll explain more about in a minute. Pre-pandemic, we were involved in a lot of convenings. We had food tank summits all over the United States, around different issues, also on Capitol Hill to help educate our policymakers and staffers around different issues in the food system, whether it's food security as national security, the role of food as medicine, the intersection of food and technology, and other topics. And then, we've had different summits on issues like food loss and food waste in collaboration with different foundations, including the Rockefeller Foundation. We've had summits with, chefs and farmers and different corporate and executives from different agribusinesses. Our goal with these convenings is really to create a lot of dialogue and have what we like to call uncomfortable conversations. We feel like there's been too much preaching to the choir and too little of reaching out to people who disagree with us. And so we really try to involve as many stakeholders as possible. And out of that, we really hope that unusual collaborations develop. And we've seen, some tremendous momentum on issues around things like food and labor, getting companies to talk to workers at our summits where, they'd only sort of traded insults over social media. So really trying to create that space that's safe, where we can have blunt and honest conversations about different issues. So when the pandemic occurred, we had to pivot, like all of you did, to having, more online discussions. So when the pandemic began, we quickly started interviewing different experts from around the globe, everyone from, the chief economist at the UN Food and Agriculture Organization to farmers in Kenya, to the leaders of farmers markets in places like Minneapolis in the United States, and really collecting their thoughts and of how they're trying to deal with this global shock. And what we'll be doing with all of those 300 plus interviews over the last 18 months is compiling them into a sort of resource, a book that highlights how community food systems especially were able to pivot and make a lot of change during the pandemic. I think we've seen a lot of incredible success. We've also seen incredible failures in our food system because of the pandemic, but I think there's a lot of learnings that we can glean from that to deal with other global shocks, whether it's the climate crisis, conflict in Afghanistan, et cetera. There's a lot to be learned from how we've been dealing over the last 18 months. One of the things that we're very keen on is what I mentioned before, not preaching to the choir, getting different audiences to hear the messages that we're collecting. Again, we're amplifying the work of so many organizations, like all of the work that you're doing. And so one of the ways that we've done this over the last several months is we put together an immersive musical that's now taking place at the Fringe Festival. We're really excited about this because it addresses, what is an uncomfortable and very complex issue around climate change and brings some joy to the conversation. So we've had really great success so far, getting good reviews from, your newspaper, The Scotsman, and others. Will be on BBC later this week. So there's a lot of I think, really beautiful work that's being done to connect these complicated issues to different people through the joy of dance and music and really bringing our food and climate systems together in a way where people can understand them, where they feel like they can make a difference, that they feel like they have a stake in this, that it doesn't seem so overwhelming. And so in addition to that, we're hoping to have, we're working with foundation partners and other funders to have a presence, a food tank presence at COP26. We're so glad that it's in Scotland because of all the work that I've been hearing about this morning for me, this afternoon for you, but all the incredible work that you're doing around creating that interconnectedness. I mean, I've heard so many great words this morning or this afternoon from you all: collaboration, interconnectedness, urgency. And I feel like those are the things that are really coming through. I think the pandemic helped highlight a lot of them, that we're all interconnected, that these issues can't be siloed as they have been for so many years. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity here, even despite all of the problems that we're facing. There's so much opportunity and ability to start making change. We don't have time anymore, as was already said. We have to make these changes now. And so I'm really excited to be here with you all and learn more about what you're doing. You know, Food Tank has we're a very small but mighty team in terms of our presence. And so we hope to be able to work with you to, again, help amplify. You're the ones doing the good work. And we want to be as helpful as possible in getting your message out to our audience. So I'll stop there, and thank you so much.
No, thank you so much, Dani. That was really great, and it's amazing to see and hear the amazing work that Food Tank is doing globally, and it's fantastic to hear about your Fringe Festival show as well. That's brilliant, and it's a nice take on it, because I think with this agenda and with the climate change crisis, as you say, it can be extremely overwhelming for people, and it's nice to put it in that aspect of there's so many opportunities to come out of it, and as you say, it's a chance to connect with everyone and just work together. So that's really great.